Welcome back. One of special counsel Robert Mueller's top lieutenants says the investigative team failed to do all it could have to determine what happened in the 2016 election for fear of being fired. Former Justice Department prosecutor Andrew Weissmann writes in his new book that the team, quote, could have done more in its exploration of ties between Trump, the Trump campaign, and Russia during the 2016 race. In the first insider account of the probe that led to impeachment, Weissmann says the team shied away from scrutinizing the president's finances to avoid being disbanded. That he was frustrated by the choice not to subpoena the president. While he expresses considerable respect for his former boss, Weissmann says he believes Mueller may have been ill-suited for such a politically charged investigation, and that the former FBI director should have explicitly said that the president obstructed justice. Weissmann lists what he believes to be the questions still left unanswered. Among them, he writes, we do not know if he had other Russian business deals in the works at the time he was running for president, how they might have added or constrained his campaign, or even if they are continuing to influence his presidency. Andrew Weissmann will be our guest on Morning Joe next Tuesday for his new book, Where Law Ends, Inside the Mueller Investigation. Joining us now, New York Times reporter and MSNBC national security analyst Michael Schmidt. He's the author of the book, Donald Trump versus the United States, Inside the Struggle to Stop a President.
So, Michael Schmidt, we're getting a better picture of what exactly went on behind the scenes by the book that's coming out and also by your book, Donald Trump versus the United States, and what Woodward was saying. And you put it all together and really we're starting to get a good view of really the battles going on behind the scenes. But there have been a lot of questions, and you write about this process, about Mueller deciding not to state the obvious, that Donald Trump committed obstruction of justice. Robert Mueller deciding not to subpoena the president and force him to sit for an interview, just like Rudy Giuliani had said Bill Clinton would have been forced to sit for an interview. Also, they got criminal referrals from the Republican Senate Intel Committee for Don Jr. and Jared Kushner. Nothing ever came of that. Tell us what you've learned from this reporting that's come out. Compare it to your book, and what's the scene look like now for you as you piece all of these different puzzle pieces together?
Well, what comes out from Weissmann's book is quite a compelling, detailed, and insightful account in ways that none of us have been able to sort of penetrate and get inside of this investigation. And here you have this top lieutenant who's basically saying, and just the most stark terms possible, they didn't do everything they could to get to the bottom of this. At the most fundamental level, here we are, almost 4 years into this presidency, and there has not been a full accounting of the president's ties to Russia. And people have said it in different ways, but Weissmann puts a fine point on that. And that's just a sort of devastating sort of thing, certainly for Democrats who looked at Mueller and looked at his investigation as something that was going to get to the bottom and answer these things. So, like many things, when the fire comes from inside, in the sense here, you have an insider, a member of the team, coming forward to speak out like this and to describe how this deputy of Mueller's, Aaron Zebley, was an obstacle to getting to the bottom of things. It just really, really tarnishes the legacy of this investigation.
Yeah, and you, of course, the most damning thing we've learned over the past month is the fact that Donald Trump's own director of national intelligence, not a Democrat, a Trump appointee, a lifelong Republican, a Republican senator, an evangelical, a Republican ambassador, left his job believing that Donald Trump was compromised by Vladimir Putin. I'm wondering if you get from this book and from all of your reporting, if you get the feeling, or if you have reporting where people that were working with Robert Mueller said that he was physically and mentally somehow compromised by health challenges, and that made him less effective.
So, as I write in my book, Mueller struggled in the practice sessions that he had leading up to his testimony. He struggled to recall basic facts about the investigation. And what's going on at this time, while Mueller is struggling in these practice sessions, is that they're trying to get his deputy, Aaron Zebley, at the table with Mueller to testify because they wanted Zebley there to be able to answer questions. Then Mueller, the Republicans ultimately push back on that, and you have Mueller more or less testifying by himself. And if you talk to folks that know Mueller, or if you've even watched Mueller testify before, Mueller had testified probably before Congress more than any other living American because he had been the FBI director for 12 years, testifying constantly on Capitol Hill. The Mueller that testified, it was just a different Mueller. And his testimony was not very effective at sort of establishing the facts of the investigation and being authoritative here. The struggle of the Mueller investigation that you have to look at, certainly since it's been completed, is that Mueller sort of ceded the ground in terms of the public relations on this. That allowed Barr to come in and hold his press conference and clear the president the way that he did. It allowed for the report to be taken in different directions by the Republicans. And by ceding that ground and not saying anything and not having their story out there, they have been hurt. Now we are hearing from an insider in one of the first accounts, and it's not a flattering picture.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.